Channel NITT viewers, I am DS Psychologist and welcome to another episode on Channel NITT. We are really happy that YouTube is recommending our channel to new viewers that we do not know personally.
Thank you very much.
So more viewers is a good thing, but more viewers also means more criticisms, more dislikes. At Channel NITT, we really appreciate any sorts of feedback, positive or otherwise. So in this episode, we are going to use a psychological principle to address a very common negative feedback given to Channel NITT. We do have very passionate viewers who really put in some effort to write in the comments sections very long paragraphs on why they disliked our video. And the most common type of dislike that we actually get is that we actually say bad things about a particular MBTI type. So we're going to talk about this in this episode. There are a lot of other YouTubers doing MBTI videos as well. So I am doing videos in the capacity of an ENTJ. Had I been an ENFJ, then probably I have good things to say to everyone. Unfortunately, I'm an ENTJ, and ENTJ is prone to offend people. This is not a I want to make you all feel good channel. It is an ENTJ channel after all. There are also a lot of other MBTI channels around. It is very likely or very possible that some other channel may have also offended another MBTI type. But they are really speaking from their own point of view. From their point of view as that MBTI. So in our channel, we are talking from the point of view of an ENTJ. There is, in this case, always going to be an in-group and out-group bias. What is in-group, out-group bias? In-group, out-group bias is a very common psychological bias that all human beings are prone to. This is the tendency for us to favor our own group. So in this case, let's say I'm doing a compatibility video on the INTP. So the INTP becomes the out-group. And if you are an INTP viewer, you are watching the INTP video as an in-group, and the ENTJ becomes the out-group. Because the human being is usually built in such a way that they have a tendency to favor the in-group. Therefore, when the out-group says something negative about the in-group, they are going to feel really angry and offended. A second problem of the in-group and out-group bias is that people always tend to think that the in-group and the out-group are more homogeneous than it actually is. So when I say something about the INTP, I say that they may be a little bit illogical. I am making a sweeping statement across INTPs. So I'm assuming also that the INTPs as an out-group is homogeneous. This obviously isn't going to be the case. Not all INTPs are going to be illogical. However, if I don't make such a statement, then there are too many hypotheticals. Can we even make a channel video like that? No. So most channels will end up saying something that is very generically so that viewers can understand that this is the prototypical INTP. Of course, we really need to be wary because what we say about another type could be a stereotype, there could be some bias. So this is up to the viewer to have a viewer discretion. Now the in-group, out-group bias can apply to any forms of in-group, out-groups, not only MBTI types. We will talk again about MBTI types later. But an in-group, out-group bias can also apply to any nationality, gender groups. It can apply to age groups, sexual orientation, social class, income class, education level. So people usually may have a bias favoring their own in-group. Why do we have in-group, out-group bias? It could be very evolutionary in nature. Back in the past, when we are very primitive, we may tend to favor our own tribes because we want our own tribe to survive better than the other tribes. As human beings evolve, most of them still have this in-group, out-group bias. It's a perceptual bias. And this is one that will lead us to hate other out-groups. So a lot of racial discrimination may be actually attributed to the in-group out-group bias. You can criticize the in-group out-group bias, but actually it is a heuristic. It helps us to process information at a faster rate and make us decide faster. So let's say we're supposed to process a membership. It could be maybe Singaporean or Chinese or Indians. We rely on heuristics. Of course, in engaging this heuristic, we may actually have used some stereotype or bias. It may not be totally objective. Usually it's not objective, and it may have led to some error. However, if we were to exhaust all possibilities thinking about this particular group or thinking about this particular person, it is going to be not cost effective to the brain at all. It may just burst. It may just burst. One thing to note though, our biases on a particular outgroup may be actually formed by our own personal experiences. It can also be formed because we hear things about another group. Haven't you heard the rumors? Let's use Singapore as an example. Singaporeans used to be rather notorious overseas. There was a time when many countries called Singaporean tourists cheapskate. Whenever we go traveling in their country, we may become very uncivilized. So whenever another country thinks of a Singaporean, this is the stereotype. It becomes an outgroup bias. They will think that all Singaporeans are like this, because when you engage in a bias like this, you assume that your in-group and the out-group are both homogeneous. They are more uniform than it actually is. Of course, there will be very civilized Singaporeans, but people will not really notice this because they just remember what this stereotype is based on their personal experience. However, if your experience with a Singaporean is good, then you will not have this in-group out-group bias. You will report as it is. You will say, oh, actually Singaporeans are not bad. Similarly, now let's take Singapore as the in-group now and to look at other tourists from other countries. Let's use a country X as an example. People from country X, when they come over to Singapore, they are really very noisy, they talk very loudly, they are really uncivilized, they are very calculative, and they are very self-interested. They only think about themselves. So as I am describing the citizens of this mysterious country X, do you actually have somewhat a lingering image of which country this might be? Well, if you have an idea, let's compare. If I say that this country X is Malaysia, you will not believe it because Malaysian tourists, Malaysian people living in Singapore are totally not like this. Not as I have described, calculative, what else did I say? Self-interested, talks very loudly. No. Why? Because this is not what we think about of a Malaysian, right? Well, this is also because our personal experience with Malaysians is not unpleasant. Unless you personally have an unpleasant experience with Malaysians, you will not have this in-group, out-group bias. Well, of course, we're not going to talk about what country X is. I'm going to come back to MBTI talk. So if I talked about an ISTP or an INTP, it's based on my personal experience with existing ISTPs or INTPs that I know of. It's just like if I have met a Malaysian, I will say good things about this Malaysian. If I met a good ISTP, I will say good things about the ISTP. The ENTJ is very objective. So I understand really that a lot of viewers, they are very angry about me saying things that they think is untrue about an ISTP, INTP. This probably is due to a very narrow spectrum of ISTP, INTPs or whichever MBTI that I have been exposed to. Besides exposure and experience, another thing that might have caused this bias is dynamics. So dynamics may actually play a big role in this bias. For example, when an ISTP meets a person like me, an ENTJ, they may feel that I am very harsh, very demanding, very bossy. So they are extremely rude to me and only to me or people of the ENTJ type. So this is also why the ENTJ will view the ISTP, for example, hypothetically, as negative. So a lot of factors may have caused this in-group, out-group bias. But if we say something on a channel video like this, that okay, this is the ISTP type, you can disagree. Definitely you can. But our experiences have also told us that the ISTP is like this, for example. So it could be any MBTI type. So as I am saying, any MBTI channel making videos and talking about MBTI types may have to engage in-group, out-group bias. If we exhaust all possibilities, oh, Malaysians, they are bad ones, they are good ones, they are smart ones, they are stupid ones, then what's there to talk about in a video like this? Because we are trying to be predictive in nature, right? If we are talking about compatibility, we can't say, oh yeah, maybe yes, maybe no, then cannot here, cannot there. It's gonna be ridiculous as a channel video. So I hope you can see this point. Nonetheless, as an ENTJ, I really like that a lot of MBTI types, they disagree and they write under my comment section that this is not what an ISTP, INTP or whichever MBTI type it is. Because one of the very important things that we all should believe in is to fight for your own community. Down the road, we are going to produce many more videos on MBTI, and we are also trying to infuse psychological principles to explain daily, everyday life phenomena. If you have not subscribed, do consider subscribing so that we can bring you more MBTI and psychology. Okay, I'm going to see you in my next episode. Goodbye!